Hi. So for the past 20 days, I have been writing in my dissertation nonstop because I had this magical idea that I would write the entire thing in a month. Well, obviously that didn't happen. So today I have a deadline and I need to submit it to my faculty, and I at least want to finish my second chapter. So that's what we're doing today. But while we do that, I'm also going to talk about things that I wish I would have realized about dissertating and graduating, so I can help you avoid these mistakes that have led me to this moment of feeling like I have to write an entire dissertation in 1 month. So, how did I get here? Well, basically what happened is, if you've watched this past vlog, then you know that I was kind of going through some things. And if you saw this vlog, then you know that I had emergency surgery while doing research. Those two things fundamentally changed my writing plan. And because of that, my research changed and my dissertation, and I didn't know what I needed to communicate to my chair and what I didn't. So in this whole time of things happening in my life, yes, I was letting my chair know that things were hard, that life was going on, that I got hurt, that I couldn't walk, all of these things. But what I wasn't doing was explaining to them that I don't know what the expectation is on my deadlines. So what that means is my chair basically thought, even though I was hurt, even though I was going through things and I wasn't writing, that I was still going to meet the deadlines I told them I would, because I didn't say anything different. But you see, I didn't really understand what the big deal was. I thought we'd work together and find new deadlines. And honestly, if I'm being genuine, I really thought that I would still meet all these deadlines. So that's probably why he thought I wasn't going to switch it up. But then I realized, if I wanted to graduate in June, I needed to have my entire dissertation done by April 1st. Obviously, I'm not going to get my entire dissertation done by April 1st. And this is because faculty need time to review your dissertation. And I know you're probably thinking like, duh. Yes, duh, don't make fun of me. What I'm really trying to say is, I didn't know how much time faculty needed to review my dissertation. So I thought if I got it turned in by a certain day, like a month before graduation, they would review it, approve it, and I would graduate. This is not how dissertations work. Usually as a graduate student or as a student up into your dissertation, you turn in something, you get a grade. Dissertations are living documents, meaning you'll submit it, you'll get feedback, then you'll resubmit it and get more feedback until you get a revised thing. This is how people end up with great dissertations or like star scholarship, is because they're going through the process of workshopping their research with their committee. And this is what I didn't know. So in my head, I was like, oh, I'll just submit it, turn it in and graduate. My chair was like, oh, well, you can still submit it, but we're going to have to work on it together until it's refined. This is the first thing I wish I would have known, the thing I'm trying to make sure you know off the bat, and that is, if you're trying to graduate by a certain date, you should give yourself at least 3 to 6 months before you need to file your dissertation to make sure you have time for the back and forth. Now, of course, while I'm saying all of this, I'm currently not writing and I need to meet this deadline. So while I didn't finish the entire dissertation this month, I do want to make sure that my chair does see my first and second chapter. And today is the day where I need to finish my second chapter. And honestly, I probably still have like a good 10 pages to go. So we're working on that. Another thing that I wish I would have known, or I highly suggest to you, is don't make your own deadlines in regards to if you are just at your exam period or if you are just starting your research. I would actually have a very candid conversation with your chair on what their time frame and expectations are. This is considerate because, again, our faculty have their own lives. They have their own projects and deadlines and other students that they're worrying about. So if you sit down and say, hey, I know your life is busy. How can I make sure that I am progressing while also accommodating your time and expectations? You can create a really great timeline with very like good transparency, so you know what you're supposed to do and they know what to expect. At the same time, I also think it's important to have a conversation to say, if something happens to me, if I'm unable to meet this deadline, what happens then? Like, what is our fallback plan? What is our contingency plan? How can I move forward? So now you have an actual plan on what the plan A is, what you should do, and then you'll have a plan B just in case everything goes wrong, because life is life and sometimes things go wrong. Also, I think it's important to say, dissertations come in all shapes and sizes. Some are 3 chapters, some are 8 chapters, some are 120 pages, some are 500 pages. It's important for you to know what you want to achieve from your dissertation, what your career goals and professional goals are, but also, what is your expectation of your faculty? Having a conversation about what are my options on types of dissertations I can write before you even start your exams, as you're writing your prospectus. If you can think about what are your options or have a candid conversation about options, you can know what happens, again, if things go wrong. So like for me, I started off with a 4-5 chapter dissertation proposal. Something went wrong. So I had to go back to my chair and say, what are my options? How can I move forward if I don't have this other chapter, if I don't have this? And from there I learned, oh, there's another way to do it. There's another approach. You can write 3 chapters. You can do this instead. And so making sure that you're also aware of what are your options that your committee or your chair in particular finds reasonable or good enough for you to be successful will help you also mentally prepare for when things go wrong or when things go right, but you want to go a different direction. That way there's a lot less anxiety about change or what you need to do or what you should have done or what you could have done. And instead you can kind of just roll with the punches as they come. Another thing that I think is important to talk about when thinking about your dissertation is that also it doesn't have to be perfect to get feedback. This is a big portion as to why I feel so behind or why I feel this pressure to get everything done this month. I, for some reason, convinced myself that before I could show my chair or my committee anything, it had to be basically like a final rough draft of the entire chapter. And again, that's because I wasn't thinking of the dissertation as a living document. Instead, I was imagining it like a final project. But if you see it as a living document and you're able to communicate with your chair or your committee members to get feedback early in your dissertation process, it can help you be more prepared, 1, for their criticism, but 2, more importantly, to craft the dissertation that will get you graduated. If you're like me and you're putting this pressure to submit perfect things all the time, it makes your process so much longer because it takes a lot more time to make something perfect. But instead, if you submit things that are in progress while you are working on them and get feedback, you can incorporate that feedback early or anticipate what they're going to say next so you can solve that issue earlier without having to do so much on your own. And I will say this does depend on your committee members. Some committee members don't want to see a work in progress, and that's why it's important to make sure you're picking committee members that are a little bit of everything. And I know, I need to put out a video on how to choose your committee. When I'm done with this dissertation, that is the first video that's gonna come up. But I do think it's important to say that you should have somebody that you're able to reach out to while you are writing to get live feedback, so you have confirmation or at least somebody to reassure that you're going in a positive direction. Now, dissertation, there is no right or wrong way to do things, but again, it's about making progress in a way that is helping you reach whatever your goal is, academically or professionally. Now, with that said, I'm going to try and practice what I preach and send my chair whatever I end up with today. So while I'm acknowledging that this is true, while I know it's important, I think deep down I'm still really trying to finish this whole chapter before tonight. But again, if I do or if I don't, I'm going to submit it, and I'll let you know if I actually finish when I get there. Okay, got done eating, writing a little bit more. I'm getting excited about what I'm writing, which is really positive. I do want to say something else that I think I learned late. Wish I would have known earlier about my dissertation writing process, and that it's never too late to ask your committee for help or for guidance. And like, I'm at this point where I'm like, I gotta get it done, I gotta get it finished. And I'm realizing I just have a bunch of questions. And I wish I would have just reached out earlier versus like feeling like I have to figure this all out this week by myself versus talking to your chair or talking to your committee members to see what their guidance is. And so again, I misunderstood what a dissertation was and thought it was this thing that I had to do to prove myself. But really, if you create your committee in the proper way, it is a living document to help refine your research skills and to give you the guidance on how to be a better researcher, how to be a better writer, and prepare for life beyond grad school. And I had somebody tell me once that when we're graduate students, our committee members aren't like the relationship that we have with most of our professors any other time. They're not just here to grade us or to decide if we're good enough. They're supposed to be training us as if we are their future colleagues. So in a way, they are looking at us, especially after our exams, as equals. We are researchers. We are scientists. We are potential doctors, and at this point we are being guided by our doctoral or professional colleagues to enter the field with as much information, preparation, and skills that we can. And I think if we approach our dissertation like that versus this thing that we have to do to prove ourselves, but rather this project that we are refining with the guidance of our colleagues and our mentors and people we aspire to be like or to learn from, then it can be less of an intimidating process and more of a collaborative, but also fulfilling and rewarding thing. Now, with that new awareness, does that mean that applies to this dissertation? Not so much. Now, if you are interested in learning more about my writing process, my dissertation in general, and how I'm structuring my dissertation, you should watch this video next. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you next week.